Customer service, done right, can be your company's single biggest competitive advantage. Welcome to the Customer Service Revolution. Join customer service authority and best-selling author John DiJulius as he interviews leaders who are revolutionizing their industries. This is more than a podcast, though. It's a movement. The Customer Service Revolution is a radical overthrow of conventional business mentality designed to transform what customers and employees experience. If you're a revolutionary customer service leader who's ready to stop competing on price and obsessed with building a brand that people cannot live without, this podcast is for you. Hello, revolutionaries. Welcome back to the Customer Service Revolution podcast. I'm Denise Thompson, and I am here with the Chief Revolution Officer of the DiJulius Group, John DiJulius. How are you, John?
Fantastic. Denise, tell me about your trip.
Oh, it was great. It was great. If you want good customer service, lovely people, Scotland is a wonderful place to be. Really,
That's what I
incredibly
hear.
friendly.
Like, is it just their nature?
I think so. And they have a great sense of humor about them. Really nice folks.
Yeah, I've been to Ireland and I was blown away about how nice everyone was. And someone told me Scotland is the same, if not better.
Yeah, I have to agree.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah, well, we were really fortunate. We had good weather. We had one day of rain in the 10 that we were over there, and sunshine came out. It was better than the weather here.
Like, what's it this time of year there? 60?
Well, it was in the 50s pretty much most of the time.
Yeah.
There's always a breeze, so you have to not mind the wind too much. But there wasn't snow, which is what we found when we landed when we came back.
Well, good. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks. So what have I missed here? What's happening at the DiJulius Group this week?
This week is a great week. It's quarter two, the spring quarter of the Customer Experience Executive Academy. And I did day one yesterday, and I just love it. It's just always my most favorite thing because you have 5 chief experience officers in the room from all over, and all over the world. Literally, we had someone from Jamaica, and they're all aligned with the same purpose, and they just become so close. And God, you learn so much from them, and they're already really good, and they're just so passionate about learning and taking it back, changing their businesses. And it's just fun. I just love our academies because of the community it builds and the genius that's just in the room.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed that too, the community, and it lasts. It's not that they just come to class and that's the end. They continue to stay in touch with each other.
Yeah, it's cool. Some of them, like, from 2015 have reunions, and they're just, you just see them on their, groups on social media, constantly sharing, and it's really fun.
Nice.
Really rewarding.
Absolutely. And it's not just business changing for a lot of these people, but life changing as well.
Yeah. We have 3 graduating this quarter. They've done with their year course. And so it's just amazing how much they've been able to accomplish in the past year. And it's really a neat thing, and how proud they are and the impact they're making on their company.
While we're talking about it, I want to let our listeners know, if you're interested in more about the Customer Experience Executive Academy or the Employee Experience Executive Academy, the best person to reach out to is Claudia on our team. So you can email Claudia at thedijuliusgroup.com, or you can schedule with her at tdg.click.claudia.
The other thing that's really cool about the group, and this always happens, but you have a law enforcement police in there, attending people from police department. You have a resort. You have a roofing company. I mean, they're just all over the gamut of the industries. A couple financial institutions, insurance, and at first they just seem like and the one common thing is they all say is that we're all dealing with the exact same thing. Like we're all, and they always say this when they first hear that there's law enforcement there, or, and they just think, oh God, what am I gonna, how's that gonna relate to me and stuff? But it's all the exact same thing. And all businesses are trying to, attract good people, make them great, and make the experience they deliver their competitive advantage.
Any difference right now with, it makes me think about it this week in particular with the tariffs being introduced and a lot of CEOs saying that we're in a recession already. Any talk of that with them, or what are they working on anything in particular?
Just the no one likes the uncertainty. And that they think doubling down on the experience is the only thing that's gonna make them less impacted by these things or the potential things that are looming.
Any other topics of interest with the Academy?
No. This quarter, the topics were the creating your signature experience, which is journey mapping and that, and then today Dave Murray is doing breaking down silos, departmental silos, better communication, understanding what each department's going through. So people love that as well.
I love that. Hey, when you talk about the journey mapping, you still add, do you in?
Yeah. I mean, that's its own day. That was the winter quarter, the relationship economy, secret service personalization. That's a full day, but that's everything comes out in the journey mapping and how, and we remind them to think about how at each touch point you can provide secret service and forward family, occupation, recreation, and dreams.
For listeners who haven't been with us for a long time and they know this as the customer service revolution, officially it started with our conferences being the Secret Service Summit. And the Secret Service came from your first book. So can you fill in people that aren't familiar with Secret Service, what it is, where it came from?
Yeah. So yeah, like you said, Secret Service was the title of my first book, and the tagline, I believe, is Hidden Systems that Create Unforgettable Customer Service. And which all came from my first business, John Robert Spa, and what we were doing and how we were differentiating our experience. And so, and it's funny, you probably remember this, the original name of the book when it was, the first couple of drafts was Mastering the Norm Factor. And so, which was from Cheers, if anyone's old enough that's watching, listening, when Norm walked into Cheers, everyone knows his name, Norm, and they knew what he drank and he had his favorite seat. And, I always say, not only did everyone know Norm, but Norm knew everyone, which it has to be a two-way street. But anyway, they wouldn't respond to give me permission to use the title Mastering the Norm Factor, which I probably didn't need, but I thought I did. But I'm glad, because it had a shelf life, right? And no one would know what Mastering the Norm Factor was. But anyway, the reason why we came up with Secret Service as a skill was back then, and hopefully still today, that was our obsession of make sure we make everyone feel like Norm. Make sure that, when someone walks in, we know them, or we give them the impression that we know them. And the key here is, obviously it's easy to do when you come in twice a week and you're a regular or a VIP, but we wanted to make the clients, guests that would come in once a year or every 6 months feel like Norm. And we had to we couldn't just, it wouldn't happen organically, because we had employees that were here so long that we're familiar with them, right? Sometimes, we might have hired an employee last month that's doesn't not only know the one that come in every 6 months, but don't know our regulars. And we would have problems where our VIPs would come in and not be greeted like a VIP, or be asked if they've ever been here before. And, they were insulted and they would get mad. So we had to start putting systems in place that, whether you had worked here 3 years, 3 months, or 3 days, you, the employee, could distinguish between who is a regular, returning, new, VIP. And so that's really where Secret Service came.
So can you give me some examples of Secret Service or the systems that you put in place within the salons?
Yeah. So one of my favorite taglines was or to it is "Show me you know me." Right. And so, I love this quote: just because you hired someone new, your customers shouldn't, their experience shouldn't be less than, right? So Secret Service in a bunch of ways is about silent cues and visual triggers. I like to say it's like the employees having these night vision goggles on that they can see things that customers can't see. So, one of the best examples that has translated to every industry we've ever worked in is if you walk into our salons, you're going to see, 10, 15, 20 people getting haircuts. And the majority of them are probably in a black John Roberts haircut and cape, but a couple might be in a white John Roberts haircut and cape. So to our customers, we have black and white capes, but to our employees, anyone in white has never been to a John Roberts before, right? So not only the hairdresser or service provider, yeah, they should know, but it's also sending a signal to everyone else in the business. So if, back in the day when you were in the salons and you were an esthetician doing facials and waxing, you might be walking by and you see someone in a white, you'd stop and say, "Hi, welcome to John Roberts. Hope your first experience is everything you hoped. I'm Denise. I actually work in the spa." Or, you'd walk by people with black capes. You say, "Hey, welcome back. Great to see you again." And, people would say, "Is there a sign on my back?" And say, No, we just pay attention." And I always would get the question whenever I shared this is like, don't people realize? I've never had someone that realized that the cape, it just looks like we have white and black capes.
So I love that. I think that was such a great visual trigger in the salon.
In the salon.
How do you make it work in another industry?
Well, so, that's, when, it was really when we work with restaurants, it might be a different color napkin or different color menu. So when the hostess would, greet you and walk you to your table and she'd say, "Is this anyone's first time here?" And, two people of the four would say, "We've never been here before." And she'd say, "Oh, great, welcome." And then she'd look at the other two of the party of four and say, "Welcome back." And she might hand them, or put down in front of them a different color napkin. So now anyone that goes to that table knows how to personalize that experience, and they look at the people with the red napkin in front of them and say, "Welcome to, our steakhouse. We know it's your first experience." And they're going to explain more or less, more of their specialties and how they prepare their steak and what you need. And then, with the people with the black napkin or the white napkin, whatever that may be, who have been here before, they don't have to go through that. Another really good one is Sudsy's dry cleaner in Miami, Florida. They had different color ones, and they would teach their customer service reps, which is people behind the counter, that if someone walked in with a white dry cleaning bag, they have been a customer for less than 6 months. So also mention to them that besides dry cleaning, we do tailoring, we store wedding garments, and we do, what are those things on our the windows, drapes, and all the other service and product. If someone walks in with a black bag, they've been a customer for more than 6 months. You don't need to tell them all about our services. And if someone has a gold yellow bag, they're one of our top, VIPs that spend $10,000, $15,000, right? Treat him as such. If you see him, pull in with that bag, you run out and carry the bag or carry them inside. But that's a really cool thing is, again, you don't have to have worked there for 3 years or 3 months to understand. And the other big thing was white capes don't get treated better than black capes. They get treated differently. more explanation, more tutorial, more thorough versus an old friend.
All right. What about if it's not a face-to-face service?
So over the phone or that, and I actually think B2B, business to business, is easier. And I don't think, I know for a fact, because when you're in retail and people just walk in, you don't have a lot of times the luxury of they have an appointment and you can cheat and say, oh, this woman walking in, and I look and say, it's Denise. If you're just walking in, I have no idea who you are or what you're there for. But in the vast majority of the cases, when you're dealing with clients over the phone or in an email, we have a database. So, if I have a call with you or you call me and it doesn't automatically trigger, but I get your name and I pull up Denise Thompson, I have your database. Denise, what's the weather like in Cleveland? Is it warming up? I can look up your last purchase, the name of your company, anything that's, that we've collected over the time. So, B2B, it's such an unfair advantage to provide secret service.
So what are some systems that companies that are B2B can use? How do you utilize your database?
I'd love to always use the example of that I've copied from whenever I call like American Express. They always say two things after they help me. Is there anything else we could do for you today, Mr. DiJulius? No, thanks for asking. We just want to thank you for being a platinum member since 1998. And I always think, wow, they talk about me, right? They all know who I am, and truth be told, that it's just right there. It's on their screen. So, 25 years ago, I brought that back to the salons, right? We have, a few 100,000 people in our database, but 500 or 1,000 of them are silver, gold, or platinum, depending on how much they spent. So that popped up, when they call in and we type in their name, it would pop up that, Susan Smith is a platinum. And we'd, so whether you called up to make an appointment, we checked you in, checked you out, any interaction that would pop up, and we could say, Susan, we just want to thank you for being a platinum or a silver or a gold VIP of John Robert Spot. And we also want to let you know that I gave, your 5% off your products that you rang up, or, whatever, thing. You don't feel like a VIP if you have to tell the customer, has to tell the person that's working there, oh, by the way, I'm a VIP, I get 5% off, right? That's not VIP, so that's why, stealing, recycling, things like that, so having a database that recognizes, that how long they've been a customer, things that take literally seconds. I can easily see where your address is, or your company's address, or where you work, or your last purchase, or, which Secret Service led into like Ford, family, occupation, recreation, and dreams, which is probably a whole other podcast, but that's kind of a morph to that. But the important thing, to know is Secret Service isn't another phrase for great customer service, right? It's a specific niche of customer service. We used to have true or false, or we still have true or false, on teaching people the difference between Secret Service. So, true or false, giving every woman that checks in at the spa today, let's say on Valentine's Day, a red rose. Is that Secret Service? No, because it's not personal to them. We're giving every woman that checks in. It's great. It's a great customer service. If you can do it and if you can pull up, great. Having umbrellas at the salon, if it's storming outside, that, we either walk them to or give them the umbrella and tell them to bring it back the next time. Is that no, that's not Secret Service. Unless it's only storming for you, which I know sometimes you think you are the only one with the cloud following you, right? But it's great customer service. Do that, but it's not Secret Service. But asking you how your trip to Scotland and Ireland were last week, right? Asking someone how their job at Progressive Insurance, asking someone how, if they got, their son got accepted into UNC. That's Secret Service, that capturing information, utilizing it the next time, and to get them to say How'd they do that? How'd they know that? Right. And so we also had rules. We have rules with Secret Service that has to match 4 criteria. 1, no cost, right? B, it has to be easy to do because everyone's job is tough enough and we don't want to, put more on someone. Number 3, which probably is most important to the company, is it has 0 impact on productivity, meaning this shouldn't add 10 seconds to, if you call up and I get your name, I can immediately see that you're from Cleveland or you work for, or your last purchase. That should all be easily accessed. So it shouldn't add 10 seconds. We don't want slow our efficiency down or need more staff. The 4th criteria, which is most important to the customer, is it's a wow to the customer. Right? They're not getting that anywhere else.
Love that. I did notice when we were on vacation, we are Marriott loyalists. And when you come to the desk right away, they recognize, thank you for being a titanium level member.
Wow, I've never heard of titanium.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens when you work out of town.
Yeah.
Thank you for reserving your stay with us. And they automatically give you a late checkout. So you don't have to ask for it. They ask you if you want it. Would you like to extend your checkout until 4 p.m.? And then all the other little niceties that they provide and they make sure you know about. But you know what's something that you just brought up, having the information in the database. I'm kind of surprised that they don't take advantage of that, or maybe they don't have that for some reason. But to say, I see you were just at our Edinburgh property.
Yeah.
How did you like that?
Yeah. Something that the Ritz-Carlton I learned from them, Secret Service systems, is when you pull in, the valet would, get your name, right? And for the valet, right? And then you'd walk in and you'd walk up to the front desk and they'd say, welcome, Miss Thompson. And you never have to give your name again because the valet would wire and say, the Thompson party is walking in and she is in a navy blue, sweater or sport jacket or whatever it may be. That's, constantly, they can stay, 10 seconds ahead where they're, constantly, and then the bellman comes. And, I don't want to have to give my name more than once. I don't want to, I hate when I'm, go to a restaurant and the hostess says, have you ever been here before? That's fine. The first time, have you ever been here before? But then when the server comes up and says, is this anyone's first time? And then the manager comes up as a table visit. Oh, is this anyone's first time? That's annoying. Ask once and then utilize that in a Secret Service system. And there's plenty of ways.
This is the end of episode 214, part 1 of Secret Service. Please join us next week for the conclusion in episode 205, part 2 of Secret Service. Subscribe today wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss an episode. Thanks for joining us on the Customer Service Revolution podcast.